Much. It's a long introduction for me to just introduce our guest speaker, which I have the privilege of doing this morning. But just in listening to the round of discussion today, it is really great to see how engaged the group is and also to hear everyone's comment and their own experiences. I think what it always does is just generate more new experiences and recollections for all of us. But one of the comments I was thinking about was the gentleman who was talking, just sort of highlighted, you know, what does really getting the right to vote really mean for women? I always think what's really interesting is, while 51% of the population are women, 55% of the registered voters in the United States are women. So what that says is that with that 55%, we have a great ability to make a huge difference. And we need to do that. So I'm sure that Laura will have some other kind of comments about what's happening with women in elected office and how those numbers are dwindling and what we need to do about it. So it is truly my pleasure to have the opportunity to introduce her. And you know, you all had a copy of her bio, and I don't really want to repeat it, but there's some of the stuff in there that I think is actually worth repeating. And so, you know, she was once a stay-at-home mom and now is a very prominent and respected California political figure, and we are truly fortunate to have her. She's also a member of the board of California Women Lead, and I suspect she'll be talking about California Women Lead, which is actually where I met Laura. And I can't tell you how impressed I was from the moment that she came up and was just sort of talking. She was the MC of a seminar that I attended, and it was from that moment that I could not wait to introduce her to Solano County and to the women here. So when I found out, when she told me at that time that she had a daughter who worked for Child Haven, I knew that there was a clear connection and that we might be able to entrap her into coming here. But in her years of public service, she did serve as the California Inspector General appointed by Arnold Schwarzenegger. And when you think about a woman being entrusted with $85 billion of Federal Recovery Act funding to oversee and to plan, I mean, it says something about her prominence, her abilities. And in fact, when Governor Brown came into office, or right before he actually served, he indicated that he was going to eliminate the office. And the LA Times said, perhaps he, Jerry Brown, can't afford Chick's office, but he and California likewise cannot afford to lose the insistent, questioning, and fresh approach that she brought. As you know, she was the LA City Controller, the first woman elected to citywide office in Los Angeles, and she has a great reputation in that city as being a watchdog, a taxpayer watchdog who rooted waste and fraud from city government, and she was named one of the most influential people in the city of Los Angeles. So all that being said, I mean, I know that she has great credentials, and I know that once you hear her talk, you're going to agree with me 100%, and that she probably needs no introduction at all. But come on up, Laura, and please, if you will join me in welcoming Laura Chick.
Thank you for that very kind and generous introduction, and I'm just so happy to be here because I think what Linda maybe implied but left out is, as of the beginning of 2011, I'm just regular Laura Chick. No titles. And actually, I'm really happy about that, because just think about what it was like being introduced with a name I married into years ago, right, as Controller Chick. If you just change the ER to ING, I was every man's nightmare, right? And then I moved on to bigger and better things. Inspector General, you know, and people expect somebody to walk in, Inspector General Chick, you know, and I barely cut 5'3". So being Laura Chick is just very, very comfortable to me now. And I'm here to join with you to commemorate the landmark event. And that was a very interesting story that we all got to hear and learn new things about. But to commemorate that event, to celebrate with you the successes and achievements that women have made since that time. But we're also here to maybe assess and analyze besides looking at the past, to assess and analyze the present and to look forward towards the future. And maybe I'm kind of a perfect person to help us do that, because I had a reputation during my 20 years in public office as being kind of a tough cookie who wasn't necessarily satisfied with things as they were. So, while on the one hand I applaud what we have achieved, we women, and I realize there are very good men in the audience too, but what women have accomplished in politics and government has been astounding. But we have a long way to go. And everywhere that I have looked in my 8 years as LA City Council member, in my 8 years as Los Angeles City Controller, and in my almost 2 years as California Inspector General, and now it's going to be the kinder and gentler controller. They always wanted me to be the kinder and gentler controller. I'm going to tell you, everywhere I looked, I saw a dire need for government to improve and to change. So my purpose here today is not to talk about myself, my political career, my life experiences, except how they relate to revving you up, to getting you worked up, to getting you fed up, and then getting you to focus in a very specific way towards action with real-time, successful results. So I'm going to start out by making an argument for why we desperately need more good women in office. And I'm going to have a disclaimer. We need more good people in office. But today I'm going to make a case for why we need more, specifically why we need more good women in office. So I'm going to start by asking you a question, maybe a rhetorical one, but I really want to know. When you look at federal and state and local government and you see what's going on, are you comfortable that our leadership is working together to try and solve some of the complex problems facing society today? Do you think that government and politics as they exist today needs to change? Yes. Okay, let me propose that government and politics as we know them today were created, directed, and perpetuated by men. Women basically were not seen nor heard as modern-day politics have evolved to what we know them today. Guys invented what we have today. And somehow the status quo seems to be working well enough for them and some of our sisters who are in power now. But the status quo seems to be working well enough that it doesn't cause enough people in office, in power, to be invested to really push for significant change. And if anything, I think things have been getting worse. I would tell you that it took me less than a couple of months in office on the Los Angeles City Council to realize that the rules of the game inside Los Angeles City Hall didn't fit me well. The rules of the game were discordant to my soul and to who I was. Why? My theory? Because they were boys' rules created by good old guys. And I'm going to give you examples. Here's one. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. What am I talking about? I'm talking about trading votes and trading favors. I mean, that is a hallmark of politics. Doing that instead of looking at the merits, instead of looking at what's the greatest possible good and benefit for the greatest segment of the public. Here's another one. Punishment for crossing perceived party or coalition lines. Again, instead of the merit or doing what the right and best thing is. Another one. Do not point out something when you're inside government. Do not point out something that needs fixing or improving, because you're going to get somebody in trouble. An expression that I heard over and over in Sacramento was, and it was an expression about me. She's going to throw someone under the bus. She's going to throw somebody under the bus. No, I was trying to get government to operate better. It was not about going after someone and attacking. But that is a rule of the game, is you cover up, you're quiet, you don't evaluate openly, you don't call out what needs change and improvement, and therefore nothing changes. One of my fantasies about what needs to happen in terms of changing the rules is what we need our government leaders to be doing today is stepping back and asking some really tough questions. What does the public in the 21st century need and want from government? And what is the best way for government to deliver that? And to really self-evaluate and to look for ways of doing things better. So in my belief, the rules desperately need to be rewritten, and this time we need lots of women at the table. So what next? If most of us believe, and I think maybe I'll ask this in a question, do most of you believe in inherent differences between men and women, many of them now proven scientifically to be based in brain function and structure? Are we very different in our thinking, in our behavior, in our style, in our priorities, even in our values? Okay, so if we're unhappy, if we're not happy with the current state of affairs, and we believe our gender does things differently, and we are less invested in maintaining the status quo that we weren't at the table inventing when it was created, then in my opinion, women are the most likely candidates to be effective change agents. To walk into what we have today and to say, this isn't working and we want something different and we want something better. It is not enough to have some women, such few women, that we don't have the critical mass that's needed. I want to use Los Angeles as an example. When I was there on the city council, we broke a world's record, 5 out of 15. Today, 1 out of 15. In 2001, I'll say I had the dubious honor of being elected as the first woman to ever be in citywide office in Los Angeles. Dubious because why in heaven's name did it take until 2001? And guess what? There's a woman controller, but not a woman mayor and not a woman city attorney. I'm going to give you some statistics in a minute. So we do not have the critical mass that's needed to really change the rules of the game and to deliver a better government. Not enough. Barely 17% of Congress in its entirety are women. 17%. 23% nationally of state legislatures, 23% are women. 22% of statewide executive offices. And less than 12% out of 252 cities with populations of over 100,000, right? 252 big cities, less than 12% have female mayors. California is not even one of the top 10 states with the most women in the legislature. And I already gave you the example of Los Angeles. I have no idea about New York, but I don't remember a woman mayor. Does anybody remember a woman mayor of New York? I don't think. So, clarion call, and now's the time, and there are organizations out there working towards this. What is it going to take? I have to tell you, I ask myself this question all the time, right? After 20 years of being in battle and leaving, looking back, feeling good about the work I did, but not feeling successful in changing how government works at all to the extent that I would have liked. What is it going to take to get us where we need to be? And I fervently believe we need a critical mass of good women in office. It needs to be Year of the Woman, Phase 2. But the problem isn't so much that women can't win, actually quite the contrary. Much of the electorate looks at a woman candidate as at least she's different, you know, she's not from the inside typically. It's not a problem about, winning elections. It's about getting women to run. That is the challenge. There have been lots of articles and analysis about why. Why aren't we getting more women to run for public office? And there's a former Minnesota state senator, whose name I'm going to mispronounce, Ember Hung, Junge, wrote an article, 4 Unreasonable Fears That Hold Women Back. And I would say this is true not just for running for office, but in any arena. 4 unreasonable fears that hold women back. The fear of making a mistake, the fear of taking a risk, the fear of winning. Her theory is, and actually I'm living proof. I remember getting nauseous towards the end of my first election and my first win, that I was actually going to win and I was going to wake up and regret it and not be good at it. I was very scared. So taking a risk, winning, and fear of confrontation. That's a big one. And you could add to that, and maybe it fits under some of these categories, fear of raising money, fear of rejection, etc. What can we do? This is the action. This is the focus. What can we do short of running for office ourselves? And maybe we have some potential candidates in the office, in the room. One of the things is to help recruit viable women candidates and to talk it up and to get the word out. And another is, when there are viable, good women candidates, to support them. You know what the saying was when I was running for office and raising money? Don't bother trying to raise money from women. You've got to talk to each one of them for an hour and maybe you'll get a $50 check. Well, I disproved that in LA during several of my campaigns, and so have other women candidates. But we really do need to put our money where our mouth is. And to, not gas because it's not tax deductible, and to think of it as something, as a very important civic duty. But besides money, there's all kinds of important volunteer work and support that you can give to women candidates. We can organize, coordinate our efforts. We can narrow down everything we're trying to accomplish and focus on 1 or 2 really doable, important goals, and to me, getting more women in elected office is one of them. You notice I'm not mentioning party. This isn't about Democrat or Republican. This is about good women in office who will work together. There are 3 organizations I'm going to name to you, and if you have a pencil and paper, I'm not giving you websites, just Google them. One is the one near and dear to my heart that I belong to, California Women Lead, that is all about training and helping women get appointed or elected to public office, statewide. Dem, Republican, whatever party you are, not declared. The other is the 2012 project, started by a Californian, Mary Hughes, that is focused on getting more women elected to Congress in 2012, and they're doing some fantastic work nationally. And the other is, and I'm very bad on acronyms, so I forgot what this means, CAWP. It's something about women in politics, but I forgot what the CA was. CAWP, it has nothing to do with California. Rutgers. It's part of Rutgers University, and it's a wonderful program. If you go on their website, it's got all kinds of statistics and links to other sites. It's all about, again, helping women get elected to office across the country and linking them to resources. What else? Well, here's a saying I love. If you are not indignant, you are not paying attention. And so I'm asking you all to join me in indignation, but not Tea Party indignation, in indignation that galvanizes us to do something about solutions. And some of it can be about getting good women elected to office and pushing for change, and some of it can be about good old-fashioned contacting your elected officials who don't hear enough from us about what you want from them, and so they know that you're watching, because it makes a difference. I'm going to end because this is not a shy audience. I heard almost all of you speak, and you said wonderful things. And so I guess I'm hoping that there's either questions or comments. I could have talked a lot more about what I saw and learned about government, but you're a well-informed group, and you probably know what I know, and you're probably disgusted like I am. We all need government. Government is good. We just need to make it better.